Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are all well. So look, this video, what you're about to watch, is a relook at the IDAHO 4 911 call. This was some information that was passed to me, who had been given the information from people who had claimed to be around the 1122 King Road property when the 911 call took place. I know that there are variations of this. Some people have spoken out about the 911 call, but this piece of information I feel is the most credible version of the 911 call that there is out there. Have a listen, and when we finish, we'll touch base on it together at the end. Here goes. I won't put it up on screen. I could share the screen, but I don't want to because it's got details on there of people who obviously don't want to put their information on. So I'm going to read it, okay? And a little bit of the context, if you like. So let me just see where the best place is to start. Right, two people who claimed to be at the house with the roommates when the bodies were discovered quickly came to the surviving roommate's defense and wrote that the roommates woke up, went upstairs to the kitchen and noticed the sliding glass door was open, and it was during that time they discovered Ethan. They didn't say where he was found on that floor, but that it was so horrific that both girls went into shock and ran out of the house. One of the roommates fainted and the other was beyond hysterical and not making any sense. Their frantic actions while coming out of the house caught the attention of people walking past. The people responding on the victim's IG claimed to be two of those people. They implied that the roommate who fainted had already dialed 911, but was so distraught that she fainted before she could give any info that the dispatcher could understand. The info that the bystander who picked up the roommate's phone could give the 911 dispatcher was she just saw her friend run out of the house and faint. So that obviously clarifies why the call to 911 stated that someone was unconscious, not that someone, that was something that a lot of people had queried before. So that's how the 911 call was made on the roommate's phone and by someone else, and why the call went out for an unconscious person. While that bystander was on the phone with 911, the other roommate was hysterically trying to explain that something was wrong with Ethan. By this point, several more people had stopped to see what was happening, and one or two of them went into the house to see if they could help him. There were multiple people in the yard at that time, and those people began contacting their friends that someone in the house was badly hurt. Someone called Ethan's brother Hunter to tell him something was wrong with his brother because he lived close to the house, and someone called one of the other victim's boyfriends as he was also Ethan's best friend. I didn't go into detail on if either of those boys had arrived before the paramedics did, but it did kind of sound like they did. They didn't go into detail on what kind of injuries Ethan suffered. They also didn't say if anyone went to check on the other roommates before the paramedics arrived, but it somewhat implied that someone had. The only details they gave about the scene itself was that it was incomprehensibly bloody. While those people were in the house checking on Ethan and possibly the other roommates, the paramedics arrived to a very chaotic scene, believing they were to assess an unconscious person outside, but they were redirected to go inside to help someone who was hurt very badly. So they walked into the house unaware that it was a crime scene and contaminated most of everything on the second floor. It doesn't sound like the roommates were roaming throughout the house carelessly, contaminating everything, fully aware that their friends had been murdered. It sounds like the scene was contaminated by numerous people who were trying to help, unaware and unable to comprehend what they were looking at, and that it was a crime scene. And they go on to say, my heart breaks for these two poor innocent young females. Not only have they experienced a trauma so brutal that it can't be changed, trauma so brutal that it can't not change who they are at their core, but they will have to live with the fear that someone might be coming for them. And they grieve of loss, 4 friends, plus a life that they once had that will never exist again. And if that wasn't traumatizing enough, they also get to live with millions of people publicly criticizing, persecuting, and incorrectly judging them for actions people assume they may or may not have taken. Some of the comments left on the IG pictures of the victims, especially the ones the survivors were tagged in, were beyond nasty, if not right down cruel. I don't understand how our society became so inhumane. It sounds like the 2 surviving roommates' behaviours were 100% appropriate for the situation they found themselves in. And I agree, like I said, this all alleged, but I think it explains a lot. I'm marking this as information rather than theory, because I'm not making a theory myself. I'm just relaying information given by the individuals who were there when the call was made. So there you have it. That was the 911 call from over in Moscow, Idaho. Now, is it true? Is it not? Who knows? We've been told that that's going to be released, and then it isn't. We haven't heard any other credible information surrounding it, but this piece of information was, as I said at the beginning of this video, this was handed to me by someone who believed it to be absolutely credible. And when you consider the things that we now know in this case, there are elements of this, such as being on the second floor and the amount that was going on in there. Now, early on, we did not understand about the true mechanics of that building and where this all took place. We was led to believe certain people were on certain floors and so on and so forth, but later on it would come out that Dylan Mortensen was on the second floor and Ethan and Xana were indeed on the second floor as well. This is where the things played out. So look, it's up to you to decide whether you believe it or not, but that there is the 911 call as given to me several months ago. Right, this was right at the beginning of this case. But you asked for it, I gave you it, and there you go. I'll catch you all in the next one.